God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome back to the 19th episode of Your Journey is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey, and the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey, and to Your Journey is Not Over. Neither are to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. Before I get started today, I do want to say that this episode is going to be shorter than most of my episodes, so I want to apologize in advance. Now back to my journey. It was Sunday, November 27th, 1983, and I left my grandma's house to go to my mom and my stepdad's house. My brother was home from the army for Thanksgiving, so it was so nice to see him and spend time with him. And he stayed with us, so it was nice to be under the same roof as him. It had been years since that had happened. He had to go back to the service and be back on base that Wednesday. He was going to Maryland. After I left my grandma's on Sunday, she wasn't feeling well, so she must have gone to the doctor on Monday and was put in the hospital for tests. I remember on the way to the airport to take my brother to catch his plane to Maryland, his next stop was the Army. We had to stop by the hospital so my grandma could see my brother before he left for his new journey. I do remember my grandma being so happy and so proud. She got to see my brother in his full uniform. My brother had outgrown my grandma years prior, so when he hugged her, he would always lift her up off of the floor. And he always called her Ma. She was our Ma. She definitely stepped in and did everything that she could for both of us. I do remember her saying to my brother, "I'm glad you came to see me because I won't be here when you get back." I also remember my brother saying, "Aw, Ma, you're going to live forever." And she laughed and she said, "No, I won't." We said our goodbyes to my grandma, and all the way down the hallway at the hospital and all the way into the elevator, we could hear my grandma hollering, "I love you," to my brother. Heartbreaking to think of now. So my brother is off to Maryland. I'm back in school, still adjusting to my new family life. That came with a lot of challenges for all of us involved. Still wasn't used to my new dynamics, but I had promised my grandma that I would try and be nicer to my stepdad. And I truly was. Again, would have done anything for my grandma. I'm looking at the calendar of 1983 as I write this. And just going off of memory, by the way, I have a memory like an elephant. There's not much I don't remember. So it must have been December 5th, 1983. She was home from the hospital, and we stopped by to see her. She didn't greet us at the door like she had always done my whole life, which was so strange to me. My grandma was a Southern woman, so she greeted and always walked you to the door when you left. So that didn't happen. I walked in her house and I couldn't find her. Last room I checked was her bedroom, a room she was never in and had not been in for the last 7 years. I misspoke on my last podcast when I said 9 years. Since my grandpa had passed away, so I walked into her bedroom and I was like, "Hi, Grandma. What are you doing?" She had this big smile on her face and she was looking above the curtain rod, almost to the ceiling. So I said, "What are you looking at?" She's smiling and has a girlish glow to her I'd never seen before. And she pointed above the curtain rod and said, "There's your grandpa." So I looked. Of course, I didn't see anything. I said, "I can't see him." She told me, "He's right there," again pointing above the curtain rod. And she's laughing and smiling and glowing, again like I've never seen before. So I said, "What's he saying to you, Grandma?" She said, "He's smiling and waving his arms, telling me to come on." I remember my heart stopped and I was scared. And I said, "No, Grandma, tell him no, you can't come right now. Oh no, I still need you. Truly, at the time, I just thought she must have had some good medication from the hospital. We visited for a few. I was feverish and I was getting my yearly strep throat and ear infections, something I still get once a year, and it normally takes me down for a couple days. So I do remember asking if I could stay with her because I wouldn't be going to school. And it was my mom who said no because my grandma had just gotten home from the hospital. I accepted that with no attitude, even though the normal my whole life always was when I was sick, I went home to my grandma's house. I remember my strep throat and ear infections getting worse. Gotta get worse before it gets better, always. So the next evening, I called her. I could barely talk, but I was asking could I come home and stay with her because I was sick. I remember this so vividly. She told me, no, not tonight. What? I had never been told no by her. I even started crying and telling her I was sick, and I just wanted to be with her. Of course, I wanted to be with her. She is the one that I bonded with, the person who took care of me since I was 2 weeks old, was with me through my surgeries when I was a baby, literally had been with me through every illness. She was the nurturer, the healer, the one who had compassion. Sorry to say, but my mother had none of those qualities. My mom was the complete opposite of my grandma. So her explanation to me was she still wasn't feeling well, and no, I could not come home. We went to hang up the phone. I'm sick. My feelings are hurt. And I was crying. And I distinctly remember her saying, I love you, baby. Don't ever forget Grandma loves you. That would be the very last time I would hear her voice or ever hear her say those four precious words that meant so much to me. Of course, I had no way of knowing that at the time, and I would soon, the very next morning, learn why she told me no the night before. It was to protect me. She must have knew something I, of course, had no way of knowing. The very next day, December 7th, 1983, would turn out to be the most life-changing, traumatizing day of my life. After December 7th, 1983, my life would never be the same ever again. This concludes my podcast for today. Please join me Thursday, and always remember, your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows.